deload bench. So nothing super heavy today, just baby weights. But it's important to do deloads. The way I look at it with deloads is like, I like to think of it as a reload also too, because it's like when you think of it like a deload, people usually get lazy, don't put effort into it. You still want to put effort into it, get the most you can out of it. But the way I look at it with reloads, it's like shooting a gun, you know? So you fire, 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 eventually your mag is gonna be empty, right? So you're gonna have to reload, you know, fill it up with rounds again. So it's kind of the same thing with training. You can't just keep firing away. Eventually you're gonna need to reload. When you have nothing to give, that's usually when fatigue builds up too much, you end up hurting yourself. Or progress even just starts stalling. You know, I've heard about guys or girls or guys are like, oh, I've trained for 8 weeks and I've been doing this, you know, 405 for 5 and I can't increase weight. It's like, just take a reload. Probably just need that reset. So that's what I'm doing this week and with this workout, just a reset. Making things fresh, manage fatigue, so I feel nice and strong for next week. Also gonna be shifting gears a little bit next week to some more bodybuilder training. Something that's easy. Try to do the same setup every time. It's like creating a routine, a ritual. To me, I always think of it like basketball players, they have the same free throw routine every time. So let's say every time you go to the line, 1, 2, 3, here, shoot, right? So yeah, I play college basketball, so in basketball, it's like a lot of it's creating routine. And that will increase your proficiency at the free throw line. It's not much different in powerlifting. So like, for example, I'm doing the same setup every single time. So because I'm doing the same setup, I'm taking it seriously like this is 500. You know, there's only 255, but I'm pretending like it's 500 and taking it super seriously so I can build that routine, build those good habits, and thus the chances of me fucking up when I do actually have some weight on there is far less. So get yourself a good routine. Get yourself in like doing that same exact thing every single time and just make it fluid. Make it like you don't have to think about it. I've been setting up this way for years now and it works for me. So find a routine setup that you can do so you do it right every time. Did we talk about bench grip? Okay. So go over. So there's like, let's say there's like 3 different kinds of grips you can use for bench. Then they all have their time and place. So the one that like most people use, which is still you can use from beginner to advanced, is just like a classic like squeeze grip. Okay, biggest thing with this, deep in the palm, you just want to squeeze it as hard as you can, like your life depends on it. Okay, like I said, that one you use from beginner to advanced, super easy, not very technical. It's great grip. Now, the other 2 grips, okay, one that in my opinion is a little misunderstood, and I personally have switched to recently, and I'll go over why in a little bit, is false grip, or also known as suicide grip. So that one's gonna be like a thumbless grip, like this. Now, the reason why it's called suicide grip is because people will lose it like this, and it'll slip out of their hands. Here's the thing though, the suicide grip became really popular, especially back in the day, because Bill Kazmaier used it. He was like one of the first guys to bench over 650. But the other factor is too, when you use the suicide grip, the bar's gonna be a little deeper in your palm than it would be with a classic squeeze grip. So what happens is like, it's a physics thing. Say the bar is here, it's sitting, you know, further back in your hand. When you drive into the bar, the power is coming from here, not here. So what happens is you're not putting as much force into the barbell. Now, If the bar is right over your wrist though, you want to drive as much force as possible into that bar. So a suicide grip kind of allows you to do that more. The other thing is too, the thumbless grip will naturally usually bring your elbows in a little bit. So if you have pec or shoulder issues, the suicide grip can save you. It could allow you to continue benching and progressing on your bench and making that bench more tricep dominant. That's a huge reason why I personally have switched to a suicide grip. I have really long arms, so my pecs and shoulders can get a little beat up. So I like using the suicide grip to take pressure off. The last grip is a bulldog grip. This is what I used to use. I still really like this grip, but the biggest problem I have with it, honestly, is that you'll see when I show you, but basically, we'll go over it in a second, but basically, what you do is you put the bar deep in your palm, but instead of squeezing it like this, you're actually gonna angle. And what that does, it gets that bar even deeper. The other thing it does too is it'll naturally rotate your elbows out so you get a little more chest. When you grip the bar though, instead of going thumbless like a suicide grip, you're gonna hook your thumb like this, put your fingertips up top and hold it like this. So, nice part about this grip, it's similar to suicide grip. You're gonna be able to keep it deep in your palm and thus be able to apply more force to the barbell. The other thing I like about this grip is you don't really need wrist wraps for it. Because the way it sits and the way you hold it, it's just not really gonna move or budge in that position. Now the big con though, is because it's gonna be a pro or a con I should say. Because you're angled out, you can use a little more chest. Which you have healthy chest and shoulders could be fucking amazing. You're gonna engage more chest off the bottom of your bench. That's gonna probably help you lift a lot more on your bench press. With that said though, if you say you have some pec and shoulder problems though, and this is more angled out, you're gonna be putting more pressure on that. It might make those problems worse. So for me, I just over time have been kind of like wearing down my chest and shoulders, and it's kind of catching up with me. So I switched the bulldog grip to a suicide grip. The reason why I do not use the classic squeeze grip is what I've noticed with it is for some reason when I squeeze really hard, it puts more pressure on my ulnar nerve, and it can make my ulnar nerve irritated. So I noticed with the suicide grip, I do not get that as much. Not really sure why, but it just works for me. Last thing we go over today for bench, because everything else is accessory work, is incline. And actually why I use this pad. So incline is fantastic for building your bench. You can build up your front delts. The benefit that like incline has over overhead press is that you'll overload the front delts a little bit more because you're simply just going to use more weight. So it has a little bit better carryover to bench press and overhead press for a lot of people. It also works that upper chest, which the upper chest is great for like the transition through that midpoint, which is what a lot of people fail at. So incline's great for that. Now you'll notice I have this sweet shoulder saver pad from the FTS. Highly recommend if you have shoulder problems with incline. So a lot of people, if they bring the bar all the way down on incline to their chest, sometimes they get like kind of shoulder impingements and stuff like that. That always isn't a mobility thing. A lot of that sometimes is it's just anatomical. John Meadows has talked about this in other videos. Like I said, just bring it all the way down. Just sometimes can put that extra stress on the shoulders. So floating it though, like say you just go down to where you can go and then like press from there, that could cause problems too because then that tension's kind of constant on joints and that can beat those joints up over time. The shoulder saver pad is going to allow you to touch and still get that feeling of touching, but just higher, and thus it'll take pressure off those joints. So this has been a fucking lifesaver for me. I'm able to feel my chest and shoulders a lot better without the feelings and pressures on my like joints and my ligaments, and to keep the pressure in my muscles and with no pain. So if incline bothers your shoulders, you can't do it, get yourself a shoulder saver pad. Don't skip on this exercise. It's a great bench builder. Cool, nice and easy. All right.